How's it going, guys? It's Cole with See-Through Panel, showing off Azimut, published by Static Press, written by Wilfrid Lupano and drawn by Jean-Baptiste Andréae. Not sure if I'm saying it right, but it's right there. $40 US retail price. And I can't really explain the story, so I'll just show off what the back says here. The North Pole has disappeared, and the comparison to Alice in Wonderland and Terry Gilliam is on the back as well, and that is a very understandable comparison, although not entirely apt, but I see why they did it. Before we get into it, it was translated from French by Mark Bourbon Crook and lettered by Lauren Bowes. This was originally put out as 5 volumes in French and was put together into a nice hardcover by Static Press in English earlier this year. As you can tell, the art on the cover is accurate to the art inside the book, which is very nice. The story, as the back said, is about the North Pole disappearing, and so our large cast of characters here are each dealing with that in different ways. The first character you meet after a short prologue is an explorer who obviously can't navigate because compasses aren't working. Then there's Eugene, the painter, who is a love-stricken painter who can't get over Mamie, his old love, who is also one of the main characters shown here. I guess this is a great time to show off some art. But the book goes back and forth from multiple perspectives, overlapping sometimes and intertwining, and our cast, here's their two together. La Peroux, the explorer, and Eugene the painter, each dealing with this missing North Pole in different ways, but the main thrust of the book is actually the almost random scattershot seeming story. Very accurate to compare it to Carol and to Gilliam, in the sense that it does seem random and strange and a lot of weird, almost incomprehensible things are going on, but when you look deeper and you finish the story, you'll understand that everything was very, very meticulously plotted all along. It makes sense, at least in terms of the internal rules of the world. So if you accept that the North Pole can go missing in this, it'll all make sense in the end, as long as you can kind of make those conceits and get past some random stuff that is actually very humorous and very clever, I think. I did see a couple reviews for this book online when I first bought it, and weren't huge fans of it, and I could see why. It is definitely very odd, and there's one major problem with it that I'll get to later that is very evident even from the cover. You can probably guess what it is. But I really, really enjoyed this. I thought it was really clever how much world building and kind of different machinery and organic life that Lupano has made here and created. Obviously, spent a lot of time thinking about this story. I thought all the characters were interesting. Mamie, the main kind of thrust of the story, who is depicted here. Not ever really fully on the page, I suppose. She's a really, really clever character. Her mother's also here. Everyone's very, very compelling as characters, and after this page there is nudity, so I cannot show that. I'll just skip forward a little bit here. Really liked this area. So there's her mother. Really like this kind of monochromatic area here. They even say, where is all the color going, or something like that when they get into the area. But the story I can't really get into deeply because I'll either spoil it or it won't make any sense. There's a lot of moving parts and a lot of things that come together at the very end to make sense, but other than that, you don't think it's going to make any sense. Really cool sound effects on this page here. This is one of those books that I don't talk about often, where I'm obviously in love with the art. Art is gorgeous. Painterly and detailed, with really, really fun, almost caricature-esque figure paintings, or figure drawings. Must have taken ages to draw all this. But the story is really, really incredible, and I was just completely won over by the story here. It's really, really great. The art conveys the story in a way that's perfect and completely matches up to the random, crazy element stories presenting. There's really clever use of light there. And I couldn't imagine a better match than Lupano and Andréae here. All of the designs, I'm not sure if Lupano was describing them or if Andréae is just kind of going off of his head. But let me see if I can find some. Also just kind of showing off some art, but there was a good page. Kind of a sepia color palette here, a map. But yeah, I really, really enjoyed this. The one thing I did mention earlier that I thought was a bit of a problem was the over-sexualization of women in the story is a bit of a problem for me. Almost all the women that show up in this are drawn to be exceptionally beautiful, and that's not a problem in itself, but it's kind of a problem when the story is constantly referencing our main character, Maney, here. Every time a man meets her, basically just wants to marry her. And while she is a very compelling character who has depth and intentions within the story, it did feel at times a bit heavy-handed and unnecessary. But I think that's something you kind of just have to get used to. Like, here's Maney's mother, who is very similar in design to her. And I think that's, for one thing, part of the story, and for another, unnecessary. So it's kind of a balance they strike here. But I will say it doesn't seem entirely terrible in that regard, because all the characters are still interesting. None of the female characters are treated as lesser in the story, but I just feel it's a bit of a disservice to a story like this, which worked in really every other regard for me besides that one. So I still think very highly of this book. It's fantastic. I think the writing in it is excellent, and it is meticulously plotted here. I think one weird thing about having that nudity I talked about in the beginning is that it never comes back ever again, and it still keeps this like almost nudity quality where it keeps referencing that all the time but never actually going into it, and it just feels strange to me. And if don't do it in the first fifth of the book if you're not going to do it ever again. I don't know, that part of it just felt weird, and it's a bit of an antiquated look at women in that way. But if you can get past that, which some people probably can't, and that's totally fair, the story is just awesome. The art is incredible. And I mean, it is just a spectacle. When you get done with it, it's very rewarding. You pretty much will never be able to guess where the story is headed, because it is, until it's explained to you, it is incomprehensible at times, in a good way, I would say. It's really fun to never know where things are going, I think, especially in a world of superhero comics where you can kind of always just assume what's going to happen. But yeah, I really, really enjoyed this. Azimut by Wilfrid Lupano, Jean-Baptiste, Andréae. I would recommend it for sure. The problems I had with it were very minor and cosmetic, and were kind of something that it's more common in European graphic novels than it is here. I don't want to come across as like prudish or anything like that, but sometimes when the book is of this high a quality, it just feels like it's bogged down by that stuff in some ways. So if you guys read this, let me know what you think about it. If not, I highly, highly recommend it. It's an awesome, awesome book. $40, you could probably find it for half off on Amazon or in stock trades. So yeah, let me know, guys. Thanks. Peace.